Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 2 of the Wellness Mastery with Dr. Du Toit podcast. Today, we're diving into how to cultivate a life of presence and inner stillness. This is one of the primary tools that I teach to my clients in our wellness coaching sessions. It's one of the most important pillars of health, and it's one of the 7 foundational aspects of wellness and health. So, to start us off, I'm sure all of us have been in a situation where we're having a conversation with a friend or a colleague and we feel they're kind of distracted. They're not really in the moment. Their attention is drawing them to different places, and we feel kind of like left out or ignored. Definitely feel sense of ungratefulness. Now, we all fall into this trap because of such a vast landscape of the world we live in, the Western lifestyle, that is so prone to pulling us into so many different directions. Our thoughts are scattered. We're in the survival mind, the stress response. We have distractions all over the place, and technology and cell phones have got such a big role to play in this picture. And what we want to cultivate is a life of presence, being in the moment. So I'm going to teach you a couple of techniques how to do that straight off the bat. And the first is that connecting to your breath. It's one of the greatest tools that we have. It's free. Um, the saying, that person gave his last breath. We literally have a certain number of breaths in our life. And by breathing better, breathing more deeply, breathing more slowly, you can increase the amount of breaths you take in your life up to the thousands, if not even more. Meaning, breath is a way to access longevity and a longer life. Saying it in a more scientific way, in a more biological way, your lung capacity is a direct reflection of your quality and length of life. So we can all take a sigh of relief every now and again and just, let go of what's going on in your life and just be in this moment. And I invite you to just be with me for this discussion. And if you're doing other things, that's great. I do that all the time when I listen to a podcast. I'm, cleaning something or driving, obviously hands free. But yeah, just connect with yourself, connect with your breath, and let's go on a journey of discovering our presence and more stillness in our lives. Another technique, a very powerful one, is this might sound strange to some people, but the position of your tongue. When you press your tongue against the roof of your mouth or the hard palate, you are closing a nervous circuit that activates the vagus nerve. Now, the benefits of vagus nerve dominance or living in a vagus dominant state, it can't be overstated. If you want to learn more about this subject, you can go to my Facebook page. It's under the same name, or at least you will say Dr. Francois du Toit, naturopath, massage, acupuncture. You'll find my Facebook page where I did a Facebook Live interview with Dr. Nawaz Habib, who wrote the book, literally, about the vagus nerve, true expert in the field, and you can learn more about that subject. When you press your tongue against the roof of your mouth, you also open up the nose, the nasal passages. Now, another often misunderstood fact is that up to 70 to 80% of all disease is caused by mouth breathing, breathing through your mouth. And if we shift to nasal breathing as our main form of breathing, I would take up the next half an hour just talking about all the health changes and health benefits you'll find from just doing that one practice. One of the biggest benefits is cardiovascular health because the nose produces nitric oxide, which is one of the most important molecules for opening up the blood vessels and ensuring cardiovascular health. Not even talking about energy and concentration benefits. So if we look at some ways to kind of like put this in context, I'm sure that all of us also experienced a situation where we're caught in traffic and it's loud and noisy, and then, yeah, as it would just so turn out, and suddenly a car swerves in front of you. Maybe it's one of, I live in South Africa and we have taxis. Taxis are known to be notorious drivers, but I'm not going to emphasize that point because that will manifest more in your life. But that has happened to many South Africans, and oftentimes that situation might come off with that person who's driving, whoever it might be, maybe hooting at you or shouting at you or flipping you the middle finger. You might have even been that person yourself, and there's grace and understanding for that. This is a common scenario because we often get stuck in the stress response, the survival response, and oftentimes, well, all of us have gone through many traumas in our life, micro traumas, big traumas, and they accumulate and they build up in the body like a pressure cooker. And it just sometimes takes the smallest thing to make that lid blow off. If we can only find more ways to blow off steam in a healthy way, that's exercise. That's, well, this is a story that might resonate with a lot of people. I know, for example, my female patients have told me how much their lives have changed since they went to boxing classes, imagining the boxing bag being their boss. Unfortunately, maybe their husband. But letting off steam in a healthy way, wow, it changes your life and you become a better person for everyone in your life. So we're talking about, in essence, the way the nervous system expresses itself, especially now, what was stored in the nervous system. We can be in either two states. We can be in the sympathetic nervous system, which is commonly called the stress response, or we can be in the parasympathetic nervous system, which I relate to the peace response or the relaxation response. You can remember the acronym is SNS for sympathetic. You can remember S for stress, and the parasympathetic, PNS, P for peace, just to distinguish between those two branches. Now, being in the stress response, well, that's also a bit of a misunderstanding. That's a bit of a swear word in our society, and we can't survive without stress. It's what meaning that whole pathway, the adrenaline response, it gives us drive, it gives us energy. It's what makes us, you know, be able to do anything in life. All of this, we're talking about finding balance. Now, when we're in, and now the balance is when you're on a good stress response. It's called eustress. You thrive in that ability to perform and get things done and be productive. But in an unbalanced state, when we're in the sympathetic response, it means we are constantly looking for a threat. We're hypervigilant. It's also a state of highly inflammatory state, also a highly acidic state for the body to be in. That whole fright or flight responses is commonly called the SNS. We want to shift our bodies more to be in the parasympathetic nervous system because it's such a great imbalance and people are in the opposite spectrum. So what does it look like to be in the parasympathetic nervous system? By the way, that's also a vagus nerve dominant state. It means that you're relaxed. It's also called R&R, good old rest and relaxation, which I love to call, obviously coined by other people, rest and digest. It's also the state where you can actually digest your food. If you're in a stress response, it's very difficult for your body to actually break food down. And it's the optimal state where you are in an anti-inflammatory state and even an alkaline state. And I know it's trending now to be more alkaline, with Wim Hof advocating Wim Hof breathing, which is a great way to alkalinize the body, and even alkaline water coming into the scene, which I won't comment on in this podcast. But yes, we want to be in a more alkaline state. It's a scientific discussion about acidity versus alkalinity that I can delve into if you're interested. So leave a comment about that. And what is a good tool to be more in the calm state, the present state? It's to practice gratitude. Now, if you start If you take just this one thing from this discussion by listening to me today, it would be the life changing and health beneficial approach where you practice gratitude every single day. And it is very little that you need. And it's one of those things, just start by starting. Even if it was one or two sentences you say to yourself in a day, well, I'm actually quite grateful that I have a house over my head, that I've got food in the fridge, that I have a car to drive in, like that previous example with the road rage going on. You can find anything to be grateful for. And when you shift your mind towards that, you'll find more things to be grateful for, and your life changes drastically. Interesting side note that I learned: if you're thinking about what stresses you out, who upset you, what happened to you in the past, what might happen in the future, except for being pulled out of the present moment, it's a big cause of being pulled out of the present moment. It also means you chose to consciously ignore 10, 20, 50 things that you can be grateful for in this moment. You consciously chose to ignore all of those things. It's about the mindset and some discipline towards what you're thinking about and what you're meditating about in your mind. How much gratitude do you need? We need lots. But what I'm trying to say is, what does the research show? How much time do we need to spend in gratitude to have a clinically significant response and change in our mood and our well being? It's 5 minutes every single day. And when we are in that state, we are happy and we are moving towards achieving heart centric goals that will actually serve us much more in life. And I'll delve into the heart centric goals later on in this discussion. So you might be thinking, like, well, this is all good and well, Francois, but I don't really see myself doing all of this calm, relaxation, Zen stuff. However, it might be in your cultural reference range. So I'm going to make it nice and personal. But by starting this off by thinking about this, reflect back on a moment in your life when you were the happiest, when you were overflowing with joy and you're just playing through life. This might have been a week ago, years ago, maybe a memory from childhood. But just bring up a moment like that in your life and just think about it for just a moment. And when you have that moment, you'll recognize that there are a few common things that come up in your mind. And this is the state of being called a flow state, which is also being termed peak performance, the peak performance state. Now, research is mounting to say that the more time we spend in a flow state or a peak performance state, the happier we are, the more we find we're achieving our goals and achieving success effortlessly, getting 10 times the work done in the same amount of time, and the list goes on. Now, there's an acronym to just define what flow states are that I'll teach to you, and it's called STER. STER. Now, let me explain what each of them is, and you'll find this thrilling because who doesn't want to be more in a state of abundance and joy? So, the S stands for selflessness. It's a state of self transcendence where one's consciousness is focused entirely on the task at hand and you lose awareness of yourself, and it's a completely immersive experience. The T is for timelessness, the experience of time distortion, either speeding up or slowing down, often resulting in hours feeling like minutes when you are in that flow state. And the E is for effortlessness, the feeling of ease and the absence of struggle, making the task at hand feel natural, fluid, and automatic, which indicates that you are then in a flow state. And the R is actually for information richness, which is a heightened state of awareness and perception where one can absorb and process a wealth of information effortlessly. It's like the brain on like supercomputer mode, leading to insightful and innovative solutions. Now, that doesn't want to be more in any one of those states? And I'm sure you'll find in that moment that you picked these elements coming up. Um, so I'm going to lead with a quote from Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And you can access so much more of this by understanding how to enter into more flow, more of these peak performance states every single day of your life. Uh, I'd love to delve into I was actually hoping to delve into what the 4 flow types are, but maybe I'll just leave that for a little bit later. But let me give you a resource. If you want to understand your flow type, you can look up this. It's a questionnaire by the flowgenomeproject.com to learn your flow superpower. It's not mine, it's their Research Institute's website, and it's a free questionnaire to find out what flow type you are. But I'll just briefly mention the 4 main flow types to add more value to how to access this and what the different people look like when they're accessing it. In no particular order, the first flow type is called the hard charger. These are individuals that love adrenaline, love the action sports. These are the Red Bull athletes and sports people, generally speaking, thrill seekers. And you can imagine where they are in flow. They're in their action sports, their high adrenaline environment. And then you've got the crowd pleaser. These are individuals that find more flow when they are at a party, at a music concert, with friends, socializing, going out to restaurants. And the third type, the flow goer, are individuals that like to be in a flow state most of the time. It's good to distinguish here. There are 2 main types of flow. There's micro flow and macro flow. Now, macro flow is when you are fully in flow. That's the hard charger in a nutshell. And micro flow is when you want to have a little bit of flow in your life most of the time. Being a flowy personality type, that's the flow goer. These are people that are generally considered to be more relaxed. They would generally like meditation and breath work and being more zen and doing yoga. So that's that type of personality. And then there is the last but not least, the deep thinker. These are individuals that get into flow when they are deeply intellectually engaged in activity like doing research or reading a book, maybe even writing a book or doing scientific research and wanting to publish that. So, but do the question and find out what your flow type is and bring more of it into your life. Now, you might be thinking, wow, why do I actually want more flow? Except for, wow, okay, feelings of joy and abundance more in your life. Research has shown that people that spend more time in flow are up to 500% more productive. Now, I'm not going to kid you or myself by saying it will come immediately. It might take weeks, months. Oftentimes, the training institutes courses that I've completed say it will take a year, years even. But little by little, step by step, you'll be entering into flow more in your life. And in those moments, maybe in the beginning it's a minute, maybe then it's 5 minutes, building up to an hour. In that hour, you'll be 500% more productive. What could that mean for your business or your relationships or getting your goal list done? And reflect on that and delve a bit deep into that subject. And if you'd like me to speak more about flow states or peak performance training, that can be a future discussion in one of my podcasts or other media. I also do the Facebook Lives and Zoom webinars that might interest you. So let's get really practical because you must be thinking, yo, I want more of this in my life now. What can I do? What should I do? So let's get to the juicy stuff. Now, one of my top 2 mentors is Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. You can look up to them and see like, wow, a lot of these aspects that we're talking about today are present in their lives. They've got balance. They practice what we are teaching today. And especially, I have to honor Dean Graziosi. He literally taught me about the 5-minute gratitude practice. And What he does is every single morning when he wakes up, even before he gets out of bed while his eyes are potentially still closed, he would say, "Wow, I love the feeling of my bed and the silk duvet cover on my body, and grateful for my wife and my beautiful kids, and I'm grateful to live in a mansion," and all these things. And you might be thinking now at this present, like, "Oh, obviously he'll be grateful. He's got a mansion, he's got the the Ferraris and all these things." And unfortunately, you would be wrong. I would have not known that, and I would have been wrong years ago. But there was research conducted on people that win the lottery. Maybe that might have been $1 million that they won. And what they discovered, shockingly enough, is that people were pretty much as happy um, after winning the lottery as they were before. Well, for a short period of time, obviously, they find a spike in joy and they buy a lot of things, but after a certain period of time, they just return back to their previous state of being. It actually shows the testament to the adaptability of the body to adjust and, yeah, be basically able to adapt to any circumstances. So what it comes down to is, it's like, if you were a an angry, bitter, resentful man that won the lottery, you'd be an angry, bitter, resentful man now with a Ferrari and a mansion. So let's practice gratitude in this moment, because when you find gratitude in what you have right now, you'll always find it in the future, and you won't end up in that sad position where one day, where if you are a success driven individual and you're pursuing your goals, when you reach that point where you say, like, "Oh wow, I started the business." Here in South Africa, it might be an exceptional landmark to say, "Wow, I'm making 80,000 rand a month, or 150,000 rand a month," or whatever your goal setting limit is for being a rich man or wealthier man. But then actually think, like, "Wow, I'm actually not happy. I don't find joy in all my possessions." So start by being grateful for what you have now, and then at that point, you'll also be grateful for what you have then. So I highly recommend that every single person reads a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, because a lot of this, what we're talking about, comes down to building a routine and new habits to get more presence, to get more stillness in our lives, to practice whatever we are talking about, be it a meditation practice, breath work, um, dancing, singing, engage in activities that you love doing, exercising. Pick your what you enjoy doing. And what James Clear describes in his book is that the key to building lasting habits is focusing on creating a new identity first. So what it means is that, in essence, we are a reflection of the stories we tell ourselves. If we tell ourselves the story, "I'm actually quite a lazy person," you unfortunately not get a lot done in life, and you'll struggle with these routines and habits. But being graceful, let's always reflect on what we can do out to move slowly but surely, even if it was 1% out of that position. And it's by using a tool that I learned from my life coach. I've termed it to flip the script, to turn the story around. And in this scenario, it might be to say, I might be a slow starter when it comes to getting tasks done, but when I get going, I'm simply unstoppable. And if that was the story you told yourself, how much more would you grow? So coming back to Atomic Habits, it's about building identity-based habits. So number one, decide what type of person you want to be or become, and prove it to yourself with small wins that you can track every day. So, rounding off, wow, I like sticking to a half an hour format for our discussions. It's what the audience has already recommended I stick to. I know our lives are busy. So, wrapping up, you'll be happy to stick up for the last 5 minutes. I can guarantee it. So I was listening to a YouTube video from Tony Robbins, and he would often mention um, this person, Viktor Frankl. And what he was saying is that we highly underestimate the human capacity to find meaning and joy in the present moment. So, Viktor Frankl was a neurologist and a psychiatrist that became famous after being imprisoned in one of the worst death camps in Germany called Auschwitz. And in that death camp, Viktor Frankl found joy and meaning and purpose to his life. Why? How can that even be? Well, before he was imprisoned, Viktor Frankl had an idea, a new form of psychology that he wanted to bring into the world. He was writing it as a manuscript that he wanted to have published as a book. And when he was imprisoned, every situation that he got, the only thing that he desired in life, except for just to see a new day without being killed, was to have a piece of paper and a pencil and at least write down the main thoughts that he had, so didn't lose the idea of the book that he one day wanted to publish. And it reflects um, in his biography, or at least from the summaries that I've read, on these moments where they were lined up naked in the mornings, or it might have even been sundown, and he would look at the sun coming up, and he would just be grateful for being there at that moment, being able to look at the horizon and watching the beauty of nature. And by the way, if you haven't listened to the first podcast, it delves deeply into the healing power of nature, or nature as medicine, what it can do for your health and well-being. And he also found it in nature of Viktor Frankl. And yeah, he made it through the death camp, and he published his book, and he brought logotherapy to the world. So logotherapy, the summary is a concept based on the premise that the primary motivational force of an individual is to find a meaning in life. So I encourage all of us to reflect on why we're here, finding our purpose, and engaging more joyful activities, because you usually find your purpose in the moments that makes you come alive, like that quote I read earlier. And the main tool to get more of all of what I've been talking about in the last half an hour, to how to get more presence, how to get inner stillness, how to be more in the parasympathetic nervous system. The main resource that I'd recommend is to go search on YouTube for the 6-phase meditation, which was exceptionally kindly gifted to the world by Vishen Lakhiani, the founder of Mind Valley. And in that 15 to 20-minute meditation, you'll find all of these different elements coming up. And if you just do this one thing, if you carve out an half an hour every day, ideally the first thing in the morning, to listen to this 6-phase meditation, which includes gratitude practices and envisioning your ideal future, just to name a few, you will find, even if it takes a couple of days or weeks, that your life looks drastically different. You come to look back on your life and say, wow, my life is actually flipping great right now. And you will know, because other people will come up to you and say, man, why is your life so awesome? What is your secret? And now you know. Trust this podcast has blessed you. Stay tuned for the next one. And yeah, enjoy your day and share this message with everyone that you know.